Hi everyone! Now let's talk about writing a research proposal for a first degree final year thesis, specifically a chapter 1. Right. Before we go in more detailed explanations, let's talk about some useful tips before we start the chapter 1. Before you can start to write the chapter 1, you must make sure that you have ample reading on related issues. For example, if you want to study about financial issue in Malaysia, you have to make sure that you have gathered a lot of sources that might be useful to help you to give you more idea in your writing. The reading material can be from article journal, books, and others. They are important to ensure enrichment in the development sentence of the thesis. Lack of reading will make the result of the thesis writing bland and boring for the reader due to lack of idea in writing. So, enough reading is vital to start your thesis. What is research proposal in thesis? A research proposal is simply a structured, formal document that explains what you plan to research. Example, your research topic. Alright, what is the worth researching? Maybe your justification, why you do this, and how you plan to investigate it. Maybe the practical approach, the methodology in terms of to achieve the objective. Basically, the research proposal will be presented in chapter 1 of the thesis. Therefore, chapter 1 is very important of the thesis. This chapter is vital because it will try to convince the reader that this research is worth to be handled, and the issue or gap or the problem are also worth to be studied and explored as a thesis. This chapter is also a main determinant to ensure the readers interested to continue reading your thesis or lost interest to read your thesis. So it's very important. Right. The section in the chapter 1 can be divided as follows. The first one is introductions. Followed by research background, then problem statement, and research questions, research objective, research hypothesis, conceptual framework, research scope, variable operational, the limitation of study, the significance of study, and lastly is the conclusion of chapter number 1. Let's start with section 1, introduction. In introduction, we should state the general topic and give some background. Provide a review of the literature related to the topic in general. So in this section, introduction section, you have also provide some literature to support all the argument or justification you provide in or you write in chapter in introduction section. Define the term and scope of the topic, meaning that you can provide some definition, term, doctrine, theory in a general only, not specific. You usually in the introduction, we only cover 1 to 2 pages in chapter 1. In chapter 2, research background, this section usually cover 1 to 2 pages. This section has specific step. The step 1 is focus on issue, support with graph and data. Step 2, discuss about each dependent variable, relationship with the dependent variable. You can take the idea from the chapter 2, which is you have to refer to literature review to do the step 2. You have to discuss about the relationship of each independent variable to dependent variable. Maybe this step will take, if you have independent variable, about three independent variable, so step 2 will cover 3 paragraphs because you have to explain each independent variable in 1 paragraph. So if you have 3 independent variable on dependent variable relationship, meaning that you have cover in 3 paragraphs for that. Then step 3 is the research gap. What made this study different compared to previous study? Okay, section 2 and section 3 have some relationship, where in section 3 we cover for problem statement. This section usually cover 1 to 2 pages only, and this section also have a few steps. The step 1 highlight again the research gap. What made this study different compared to previous study? Step 2 discuss about the theory or hypothesis that you want to apply in the thesis that related with the research gap. You have to explain it a little bit deep compared to what you did in introduction. And you have to explain again about hypothesis or theory you use in methodology. On that section, you have to explain it much deeper. Okay, next, step 3, main aims of the study, the main objective. Step 4, methodology used to achieve the main aims. Step 5, contribution of the study. Section 4 is research question. Right. Basically, the first degree thesis, 2 or 3 research question are enough. Research questions are the issue that need to obtain the answer through the research. And section 5 is research objective. Basically, in the first degree thesis, again, 2 or 3 research objectives are enough because it follows how many research questions you have. And research objectives sometimes need to be done to answer the research question. Section 6 is research hypothesis, the expectation according to the research objective. So section 4, 5, and 6 is related. Yeah, and a research hypothesis is a statement of expectation or prediction that will be stated by research. Before formulating your research hypothesis, read about the topic of interest to you. In your hypothesis, you are predicting the relationship between variables. Section 7, Conceptual Framework. The conclusion of the research in overall presenting through diagram is called conceptual framework. The diagram can be manipulated or designed since it achieves the related research in overall. This part should be discussed further with your supervisor, yeah, because it depends on your discussion to provide the proper conceptual framework for your thesis. Right, section 8 is the research scope. The scope of a study explains the extent to which the research area will be explored in the work and specify the parameter which the study will be operating. Basically, this means that you will have to define what the study is going to cover and what is the focus on. A well-defined research or study scope enables a researcher to give clarity to the study outcome that are to be investigated. It makes clear what specific data points have been collected whilst others have been excluded. Section 9 is about variable operational. This section explains in depth related to every variable used in the study. You may also provide simple formula in this section if the formula is used to generate the data series. So this is some example of the variable operational. You can do it in your thesis. Section 10 is the limitation of study. In this section, you need to discuss the restriction or drawback of your study with respect to aspects such as respondent, sample size, location, sampling technique, and variable selected, and many other reasons. And section 11 will cover about significance of study. At the end of the thesis, what will this study produce? Like product, new finding in related field, or any others. How this study relevant and useful for stakeholder. the significance of this study to the stakeholder including government, society, industry, environment, specific sector like plantation, properties and others, or specific group of people like household and others. And finally, section 12, the conclusion of chapter 1. This section should simplify the overall chapter. A writer should keep in mind that the conclusion is often what a readers remember the best. So a conclusion should stress the importance of the thesis statement, give the essay a sense of completeness, and leave a final impressions on the readers. So thank you so much of watching this simple lecture video. I hope this will help you to understand what you should write in your final year thesis, specifically in chapter 1, because this step is very important to make sure that you are actually completing all the needed or important section in the chapter 1 for the thesis. Alright, thank you very much.